Good evening or morning, depending on when and where you're listening. This is Ashley Kirkwood, host of the Currency of Confidence podcast, the podcast that teaches you how to increase your confidence and use it for more success in your business and professional life. Today's topic will be learning to believe in yourself, how to use and find your voice. Now, this statistic that I'm about to share is astounding, at least to me. Did you know that men do a whopping 75% of the talking during an average business meeting? Now, Inc. magazine came out with this particular article, and it's based on research from the Partners in Leadership Committee that confirmed this, because women above men still struggle to find their voice in the boardroom. And I thought that this was a very interesting study and a more interesting topic. That's why I wanted to talk about how you can learn to believe in yourself and how it's an actual deliberate act, not something that people are naturally born with. Now, I'll admit that there are some people who are born into certain situations that make it easier for them to believe in themselves. And maybe that little imposter syndrome monster who sits on everyone's shoulder is a little bit louder for some of us rather than others. However, there are things that you can do to find and use your voice, and doing those things will actually help you learn to believe in yourself. So let's jump right in. First off, why is this important? Why is this important? If you are someone who does not speak up in meetings, who is afraid to voice adverse opinions or even concurring opinions, then you will find it extraordinarily difficult to move your particular message and purpose forward. Why is that? Oftentimes, those that are brilliant, those that have done things that have changed the world, have come up with ideas or inventions or companies that disrupt industries. If you think about things like something as simple as a car, right? At one point, that was just not the way people were traveling. And so whoever came up with the idea of a car had to believe so much in themselves that they were comfortable voicing, at least to the people who needed to know, what they thought would be a better mode of transportation. Now, I know that seems like a long time ago, but we still struggle with those things today. So you need to know how to believe in yourself and find your voice, because doing so will actually make you more successful in business and in your personal life. So how do you get started? If you're someone who struggles with this, or you're someone who believes in yourself, but you still struggle to speak up in meetings and find your voice and voice those unpopular opinions, one thing that you can do is to set a plan. Be intentional about the fact that you actually want to speak in every meeting, whether that be offering a different perspective on an issue, whether it be posing a question. You want to start using your voice in every meeting. Start using your voice in every meeting. Why is this? Because the more you do something, the more you do the thing that fears you, even if you just start off doing it a little bit, it will begin to show you that it's not that bad, that boogie monster that you think in the closet is really just your own shadow. So you need to start setting an intention to speak in every meeting. How will you get more comfortable speaking in every meeting? Well, one, do your research. Show up to every place that you show up prepared. Know what the meeting's about. Know who the other people in the meeting are. Research the other people in the meeting, even if they're just your coworkers. If you're going to an event for entrepreneurs, ask a question. If there are 100 entrepreneurs in the room, stand out. Ask a question if you have a question. Don't be afraid to voice your opinion and use your voice. Now, the truth is, a lot of us don't utilize our voices because we don't know what our voice sounds like. And I'm not talking about the actual tone of your voice, but we have to find our voice, find our power, find our ability to speak, and know what makes us unique and what makes us different. So how do you start to find your voice? Well, that's a big one, but you want to know what you like. Basic. Do you know what you like? Do you know what you dislike about whatever environment you're in specifically? So if you're an entrepreneur, do you know what you like about the entrepreneurial world as it stands? In your particular company, do you know what you like about that particular industry or about that particular company? And do you know what you don't like about it? Okay. You have to know that, and you have to do some research to figure out what you would propose you would do differently, because that'll help you to have a basis for your voice. So you need to find your voice, find out what you like, find out what you don't like, find out why it is that you are uncomfortable or afraid or apprehensive about using your particular voice. When you grew up, Were you told to shut up a lot as a child? We don't think about these things, but if you were told to shut up a lot as a child, when you're older, you may start thinking thoughts like, oh, someone probably is going to say that, or someone else probably could say this more eloquently than me, or someone else is better suited to make this particular statement, so I'm not going to make that particular statement. When you did public speaking as a child, did you get good feedback from that, or did you get negative feedback from that? If you start to uncover the reasons why you do certain things, it helps you to make informed decisions about what you need to do to counteract that negativity. So you want to find your voice as it stands. Where does your current speaking styles, where does your current decision-making process in terms of when you speak, when you don't speak, where does that come from? What is that rooted in? Okay. Because it all ties back to confidence. But more importantly, you want to understand why you are the way you are at present. And you have to know that you're not alone. If 75% of the talking during the average business meeting is done by men, then if you're a woman who is apprehensive about speaking at a business meeting, you're in the majority. You're in the majority. You're in the majority. And guess what? Sometimes we start to believe that people who have loud voices, people that have boisterous, aggressive voices, who use tones that aren't necessarily considered pleasant to the average person, we sometimes begin to put those people above ourselves and think that they have more to say than we have to say. And that's simply not the case. That's not the case. And so you want to even start to challenge your ideas about what makes someone worthy of speaking in a meeting, and figure out what it is that you're telling yourself about your own voice and your own thoughts and your own ideas that's preventing you from seeing the value in it such that it's beneficial to share with others. That becomes really, really important. So you got to find your voice and you got to use your voice. And how do you start to do that? So here's 3 ways. And we talked about one of them already. The first way, make a deliberate effort to speak in every meeting. Make a deliberate effort. Make a deliberate effort to speak at every meeting. Do your research beforehand. Have something to contribute. Even ask a question. And I'm saying that for those individuals who never speak in meetings. You never speak up. You're scared to do so. Start doing the thing that scares you. And maybe you ease into it. So at first you're not giving opinions. You're just asking a question. I'd like more clarity on X, Y, and Z. I'd like to dig deeper into why you thought blah, blah, blah. In my department, it works this way. Can you explain how what you said would be relevant to Department X? So start figuring out what questions you can ask and come prepared to utilize your voice in the meeting, because you want people to view you as someone who is inquisitive, who's leaning in. I know people have different opinions about that, especially in diverse communities, but you want to be viewed as someone who is leaning in, who is trying to do the best that they can to add and contribute to every meeting that they're in. So 1, make a deliberate effort to use your voice. 2, the second way that you want to start to use your voice, and the way that you can start using your voice if you're someone who's a little bit more apprehensive about doing so, you can use what I like to call the buddy system. And what is the buddy system? So if I have a great idea and my girlfriend in my same department is going to the same meeting as me, I can tell her my idea and say, hey, would you mind sharing that in the meeting? If your girlfriend is more vocal, and this is for someone who you're actually friends with, right? And this is what I like to call the buddy system, because once you develop an ally, a friend in a corporation, one of the things that gives ideas credence is if someone else shares the idea who is a little bit more vocal and trusted within the company, but they give you credit for the idea. So this does not work if you do not have a close relationship with the person you're doing this with. But sometimes there are situations in which I will have an idea, but I'll give it to someone more. When I was in corporate, I would give it to someone more senior and ask them to share it with the decision maker because they had a better rapport with them. But I'd always ask they give me credit for the idea. And you can agree to do the same for them. If there's ever and you just have the conversation, hey, I'm looking to raise my profile within the company. I want to do more to get more involved and engaged in the corporate culture. How can I do that? Well, one of the ways that I thought of is that we have a buddy system. I have a great idea. You share it with Bob. Let Bob know that it was my idea. And when you have a great idea, I'll share it with someone else and see what they think. That way I can get an honest opinion about the idea when I'm not in the room. And if you do this, it's great. If you're in the same meeting, they'll just say, hey, Bob brought up a good idea that I wanted to bring up. And I think she said it's okay if I share. X, Y, and Z. This is the idea. But if you do it when they're not in the room, so let's say you don't share it in a meeting setting, but you ask them to go to their superior and share your idea in a situation where you're not in the room, they'll be able to get honest feedback about your particular idea, bring it back to you, and then you're more confident in your ideas, but you also didn't have to speak publicly at first. So utilizing the buddy system is really good. And when it comes to finding and using your voice, the more credence your ideas get, more validation they get from external forces, the more you're going to start feeling comfortable sharing those ideas, using your voice, moving forward in that direction. So that's something that I'd like to share. I like the buddy system. I've used it in corporate. I think it's a great idea. The other thing you can do is if you're not ready to open up in a meeting just yet, but you want to get that validation, you want to start being more involved, offline. Share your idea offline. After the meeting ends, take notes of all of your opinions and comments about the meeting. Go to whomever was running the meeting and say, hey, I had a couple ideas that I didn't really want to bring up in front of the whole group. I didn't want to stop progress in the meeting. But what do you think about X, Y, and Z? Do you think that's something we can discuss next time? And you can get their feedback in a one-on-one setting about the ideas that you generated during the meeting. Because what typically happens is you have these ideas in the meeting. You don't ask the question right then and there, and then the opportunity passes you by. And the reason why that's problematic is, one, your idea may be brilliant and you just don't know it. And two, no one even knows that you had thoughts. Now, what your superior may start to do, if you do this 1, 2, 3 times, if they're a great manager, they'll just start calling you out in the meetings and saying, hey, Crystal has come to us with some great ideas. Crystal, do you mind sharing your thoughts on this particular aspect of the business? And that's where you want to be. You want them empowering you, encouraging you to do stuff publicly, because it means that they recognize the brilliance that is within you, and they're just giving you a little bit of help pulling it out. So the 3 ways that you can learn to use your voice in a corporate setting. 1, make a deliberate attempt to speak in every meeting. Meaning you go to every meeting with a question you're going to ask in front of the group. You're going to do something towards your goal of speaking so you can start using your voice. And one way you find your voice is by using it and refining it over time. 2, buddy system. Get you someone in the company that you're friends with and agree, hey, we're going to promote each other. We're going to build each other up in the company. And the reason the buddy system is so powerful is because if you are always saying that you are great, maybe some people will believe you, maybe they won't. But if other people are saying how great you are, it is far more believable. So you want other people talking about you, which is why we talk about things such as getting in the press, doing more for your business, etc. How to get in the press, how to do those things, how to boost your profile, which is what the next episode will be on, getting yourself in the press. So stay tuned for that episode. But you really want to make sure that you have someone that you trust if you're going to do the buddy system, and you all have an agreement that we are going to promote each other's ideas. We are going to promote each other within the company. We're going to apply for awards for each other, nominate each other for our recognition. We are going to build each other up. Definitely something you want. And then 3, offline. Make your comments offline. So take notes during the meeting, but then make your comments offline to the person during the meeting. And it's important that you set up why you didn't say it in a meeting in a way that gives you, that doesn't make you seem like you just lack the confidence. You could easily lead in with something like, hey, I have some ideas. I didn't want to stall the meeting, so I'm not sure if it would be relevant to everyone who was there, but I was wondering X, Y, and Z. Or my suggestion is X, Y, and Z. Do you think that's a good idea? Get going in one-on-one settings. If you're someone who's an introvert, that shouldn't stall your progress, because, it shouldn't stall your progress. Just because you're an introvert, that should not stall your progress. There are techniques and strategies that you too can use to network your way to success, to build your confidence and convert it into currency for your professional life. And this will give you a track record of implementing strategies and offering ideas to move the company forward. And you can utilize these strategies whether you are an entrepreneur or you are someone who's in corporate America, because as entrepreneurs, we take meetings all the time. We go to conferences all the time. And you don't want to be the person who who goes to the conference, wants to connect with one of the speakers, wants to meet, wants to make a comment, but never does because of fear and a lack of confidence. And to be clear, I don't want people to hear lack of confidence and think like, oh, this means I don't have any confidence. I'm not confident. Everyone has some level of confidence. This show is really about increasing that level so that you can be more productive and you don't let fear stop you from reaching your business goals. So you do want to take this into consideration in terms of how you can find and use your voice to further the mission of your company. And it all starts with learning to believe in yourself. Now, let me tell you this. Some people believe that there are individuals who are born confident. And I want to tell you the story of Sarah Jessica Parker. Now, a lot of you all know her from Sex and the City. Sarah Jessica Parker and her family were at one point living on welfare, okay? Welfare. And she speaks openly about this and like the daily humiliation that was attached to living on welfare. And sometimes when you grow up in certain particular circumstances, the things people say about you don't necessarily go away. So you have to make an active attempt to not let those negative things that people have said, that taunting, that teasing that happened when you were growing up, if it happened, to permeate the rest of your life. But what Sarah Jessica Parker does is, or what she did was she still followed her dreams anyways. Even though she knew the circumstance that she had growing up, she knew what people were saying about her. She actually told the Times that she remembered being poor because like she said she was so poor there was no way for her to hide it. They didn't have electricity sometimes. They didn't have Christmas sometimes. They didn't have birthdays sometimes. Bill collectors were coming to our house. So she remembers all of these different things, yet she managed to believe in herself enough to go after her dreams, to take that action, to use her voice. And how ironic is it that on Sex and the City, she plays this extravagant, super wealthy woman, you know, living her best life. And I think people sometimes think that for celebrities, they get to these heights and they never went through anything, or they never had to work on their confidence or build their confidence or do what it takes to be successful. And that's just not the case. And so she went from literally living in poverty to having a net worth of reportedly $90 million. $90 million. And it's because she learned not only to use her voice, but she learned to believe in herself and follow her dreams. So what we can take for that as everyday people, it doesn't matter where you start. You can always finish big. You can always finish big. And it's important that you believe that with everything in your being, that you know that like you know your name. It does not matter where you start. You can always, always, always finish big if you can learn to believe in yourself. And we talked about strategies for doing that. One of them being how to find your voice, and not just find it, but use it. And to be clear, you can find it by using it. You'll learn how it sounds. You'll learn more about it. So I'm hoping that these tips were helpful for you. These strategies were helpful for you. My name's Ashley Kirkwood. Thanks for joining us on the Currency of Confidence. If you have questions, please email them to me. Any questions on confidence, corporate, or entrepreneurship, email them to admin@Passion, Purpose, and Paychecks, and you might just hear your question on the next episode. If you want to join my list to get all these great details in your inbox, text Ashley, ASHLEY, to 66866. Again, text Ashley to 66866 to join my email list and get all these amazing tips in your inbox. Depending on where you're listening from, if you're listening in Chicago on April 6, 2019, I have a Speak Your Way to Cash workshop coming up where I'll be sharing how to land lucrative speaking engagements and build a speaking business. If you want to come to that workshop, we'd love to have you. Just go to speakyourwaytocash.eventbrite.com. That's speakyourwaytocash.eventbrite.com. It's in Chicago, Illinois on April 6th. And again, if you want to join my list, just text Ashley to 66866. Can't wait to hear from you guys. Be sure to follow us on Instagram, and I'm out.